This is IBM Museum. In tonight's video, which is best in a screen capture format with my voiceover, is going to be about the most basic of tasks with the IBM PS2 system, and that is creating the starter or reference diskettes for those systems. I'm going to start the process here because I know it's going to take a long time as it goes through and does that extraction process to diskette. I can do all my commentary at that point. And I'm just wanting to show I'm getting into the directory where I have, in this case, the star diskette that I want to do, since I'm on actually a Model 30 tonight, and I want to create that starter diskette for it. So I have the executable that I've gone through and downloaded from the internet. This, I believe, came from Louis Olin's page where he documents the Model 30. Okay. Goes through the license agreement. A lot of these splash screens are very similar process for any of the starter diskettes, reference diskettes, or the IBM option diskettes that they had. We get the long beep at the end. It tells us to continue, press enter. We put the diskette. In this case, it's a low density or 720 KB diskette diskette in the drive. Okay. And as I said, this process is going to take a little bit of time. Even though it's a low density diskette, it's half the size of the 1.44 megabyte diskette. Now, on the Model 30, it's rather interesting because that unit came out in 1987 with the initial release of the IBM PS2s, and it was the only 8-bit or non-microchannel system to be initially released of all those 1987 systems. And it's based on the 8086 CPU, which I've upgraded to a V30 from NEC, and it's at 8 megahertz. This system actually runs Windows 3.0 fairly well and everything. I've demonstrated that on other videos. And it has a different real-time clock than a lot of the other PS2 models. Now, a starter diskette, that's for the PS2 models that are below 50. And viewed as, the easy way to say it is ISA bus, but that's simply just not the case. Not microchannel bus is a better way to remember that. The Model 25 and Model 30 of the initial release were an 8-bit bus, similar to the XT or PC, original PC series. And there may be instances that adapter in there takes it over to a PCM CIA interface or of that effect. But I just consider it, all the models below 50 are not microchannel bus. Models 50 and above are microchannel. And the starter diskettes are for those models, like I said, below 50. Reference diskettes, which set more features, and you get down to more the nitty-gritty and the configuration of the system, being able to run those ADF files to set up adapters to configure the system in that software-based format with ADF files, are done through those reference diskettes. Starter diskettes, typically you're only able to set the time and date. We'll run through that a little bit of that process once we've got this diskette created. It's going along pretty good. And the fact that I've upgraded this Model 30 to a 1.44 megabyte A drive, I've got the 4869-001 external diskette drive, which is the 360 KB 5 1/4 diskette, And then I've actually got a SCSI card in there. We'll see all that during the boot process that we'll go through as my system here boots up again after we create the starter diskette. After I eject the starter diskette, we'll see a little bit of that startup routine as well. And so it's got an external SCSI CD-ROM drive, and I actually use that to transfer the files. I've just burned them onto CD. Okay, the extraction is complete. Tells us press Y for yes if we wanted to do another, create another starter diskette of the same style. We're just going to go through and press the enter key on the keyboard. And I'm actually going to do a Control-Delete key sequence. So we can go through just leaving that starter diskette in the drive, and we'll actually go through and effectively boot from it in this case. And that's the ROM BIOS extension for my SCSI adapter that I have in. And then I've also got a 1 gigabyte hard drive on this unit as well. So I've replaced some of the we're going to go through and we're going to select services in this case, so we could also go through and learn about our systems. There's some really kind of neat graphics things that are in that learn about your system. Okay, we're going to press enter again. Okay, and we get the basic black background screen in this case. Once we've gone through that, we're going to select 4 for time and date. We have the ability to check out the system, format the diskette, copy a diskette, or the old hard drive to prepare the system for moving, parking the heads, things like that as well. And I do have an additional VGA board actually on the small 30, so I'm not necessarily using the MCGA graphics. Okay, and it's asking us in military time 1952, meaning 7 p.m. and 52 minutes, and that is the correct local time right now. So we're going to press enter. I've got the correct date in there as well. And as I say, that's a different real-time clock in this case from the other later PS2s. Okay, it's telling us to remove the starter diskette from the drive, which I've done. The other reason I went through and wanted to create the starter diskette for the Model 30 was that it in fact was the 720 KB based diskette image, and I've mislocated my 1.44 megabyte drives and diskettes, and I couldn't lay my hands on them. I had a lot of the double density diskettes, and so I said, well, that's a good way, and just a good way to demonstrate, because the process is virtually the same even for creating a reference diskette or option diskette as well. So we're back to the DOS prompt, and we've got to where, just as we set the time and date before, you got to see a little bit of the boot up of the Model 30 the way I've got it configured. And it's rather neat to have that system that was released in 1987 with a functional CD-ROM drive that can burn a CDR and with full files, 640 megabyte of files, and be able to transfer them over to the system very easily. I do even have the ability to work with the low density 5 1/4 diskettes on this system as well. So, but that is the basics for creating a starter or reference diskette, option diskette from IBM. All that process is very similar, where you get the executable. In some cases, we have them stored in particular image formats or zipped up or whatever else, but you're wanting to get that executable image extracted for the old school method. And there are some new school methods. I'll probably cover those at some later point in time. And I'll probably do it as from the reference diskette perspective of doing a 1.44, maybe on a more modern system like Windows 7, even a 64-bit system, going through and extracting that image and showing how that's done on those systems. But this is the way that IBM originally set up for how to create those diskette images. And if you do enjoy this video, please click on the appropriate spot to like it. Please subscribe to my channel. We're going to have a lot more format. I've had another request that I go through and show how to open up the various PS2 models. And I thought that this is, I saw this as a topic that's even very basic for the PS2 systems as well. I saw some people struggling with how to go through and proceed and do this. And I just thought I'd demonstrate it just as a way to get people going on the softer side. And because typically you'll run into an area where if you don't run the reference diskette on a microchannel system to set up the adapters to, once your battery goes dead for your configuration, you're having to go through and create a reference diskette to work with that system at all. That's a process that takes it's needed. It's a very heavily needed step. And a lot of time we deal with, of course, on the PS2s where the floppy drives are failing and need to be redone, things like that. But if you have a functional floppy, in this instance, this is the way to do it. We'll talk about some other methods that I'm currently developing, projects I'm developing, in the cases where there is not a functional floppy drive that's a proprietary connection on the PS2 systems, and there's been adapters to go through and attach a more conventional 1.44 megabyte drive, or going through like the things like the Gotex that are a little bit more modern to actually have those diskette images on a USB drive and be able to run that as well. And we'll cover those topics undoubtedly with the projects that are up and coming, and I'll demonstrate those not in a screen capture mode like this. I'll have a little bit of the ability to show in front of the computer as we go through those processes and use those modern tools for getting a PS2 configured when there's not a functional floppy drive. But that's all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.